impromptu coffee making with a Aeropress Go. I'm gonna make a liter of coffee with it right now. Everybody says that the capacity is terrible, that they can't even make a cup of coffee. This is how I make a liter of coffee at once out in the woods. So I have a canister that was way too big. I was forced to buy because the Walmart only had the 1 pound container maybe a week ago. So life happens, you get stuck with that kind of crap. So, the Aeropress scoop, for me, I do 2 pretty heap scoops. I could be more fussed to, measure it, and I kind of look at it, and that doesn't look like quite enough, but, basically two solidly heaped scoops. So it's around, it's about at the 2 on the container. You can make it way stronger if you wanted to, but I don't really want a super strong coffee right now. So right now I'm heating up water in a bot. I'm heating up a whole liter in a 1 liter bot. I have a titanium cup, which coincidentally, if you can imagine, sits right inside the bot, and I can invert the whole, or in the cup, and then I can stick the whole thing in the bot, and I can kind of pull the plunger out a little bit, and it doesn't rattle at all. I keep a little cloth inside the plunger. If I really wanted to, I could fit, so I have the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe. If I was to do it again, I'd probably get the Soto Amicus, because I think it's as good a stove. It's actually cheaper, but such is life, that's how it goes. So I'm boiling some water up. I didn't filter it, so I actually am boiling it from where I grabbed it from. It's not it's clean water, but it has a little bit of sediment in it, and so I'm actually going to boil it just to be safe. I don't tend to filter all that much, but to each their own. But everybody says you can't make a reasonable amount of coffee with this thing, and I don't buy it. There are lots of ways to make coffee with an Aeropress. This is a pretty lazy way. Some are way more advanced, inverted, whatever. I'm not even going to vacuum, pressure seal this one. That's a random metal fork that I found that I burned on my stove for a minute. I'm going to carry it out of the woods with me when I go, because I'm heading right to a road here. Tomorrow morning. I'm staying here for the day. But I found that on the ground in this campsite. So I'm going to use that for my purposes. So this is a 1 liter pot. I personally have a bot. I like the bot. I'll go into that at another time. But the good thing about the bot is, well, number one, it's a liter. It functions as a, water carrying vessel. You can cold soak in it. You can cook in it. You can actually keep stuff kind of hot in it for quite a while if you close the lid. It may pressure lock, but that's easy enough to solve. So, where I'm making a liter of coffee for me, my cup is a 450 milliliter Snow Peak. I've had it for a few years, and I used to have the MSR titanium cup, which I lost, sadly. Not on the trail, but in the city. Long story, but I'm sad. I was sad to see it go. So there are ways to actually do this same process without the cup. If you wanted to make a whole liter of coffee, you can brew a concentrate. You can balance like a spork on the lid of the bot and brew the concentrate into the bot lid. I've done that, but I like the form factor of the cup that I drink out of. I've been using for a long time, and I'm willing to sacrifice to have the whatever it is 2-ounce cup that I like. Could weigh it, don't care. I enjoy it. So, not paying attention, talking. My water has reached a boil. Never ever boil a pot with the lid sealed. Set the lid upside down on the pot because it will explode. Never done it, but it's obvious that it'll happen. It'll, you know, pressurize it, explode, and that'd be a bad time. So, step number 1. Make sure I'm not going to burn the shit out of my hand on the handle of the pot. Fill the Aeropress with water. I'm going to stir it for a second with the fork. Kind of on a teetery surface here, but you know, this is the complication of an Aeropress, is if you screw it up, it'll dump everywhere. So it'll run through in the beginning. Now this is where I add a little bit more water. And if you wanted to, like, to let it bloom a little longer, you can actually insert the plunger and back it out just slightly, and it'll put a slight vacuum on it, and it'll not let water run through it. But I'm not super fussed, so I let that sit for, you know, I don't know, 45 seconds or a minute after a little stir. I don't stir it vigorously or anything. Just enough to make sure it's all, you know, wet with the water. This coffee right here is Cafe Bustelo. Super cheap, super decent. You know, a couple bucks at any Walmart or dollar store. So once it's sat for a second, you know, like I guess we're probably about a minute, you slowly press it through. I have a metal disc in there in one of the Able filters. So we press for, you know, until it compresses. Super easy. When you hit the hiss, you know, some people say don't press all the way through the hiss. I usually do, just for the sake of easy cleaning. Then I just back it out slightly so it doesn't, like, make a mess everywhere. And there you go. So now you have extremely potent coffee. Then I pour it into the bot. Then I take the bot, pour it back into the cup for a second, just a little bit. You know, fill the cup up to get the remaining super strong coffee out. Then I pour that back in. And then, blam, we got coffee. And look at how much coffee that is. It's crazy. And the beauty of the bot is, so I have all this coffee. And I can screw the lid on. It'll pressure seal if I let it sit for too long, but that's easy enough to pop. And so there you go. You got coffee. Super easy. No brainer. Then to clean out the Aeropress, you can just unscrew the thing. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but you unscrew that. Make sure you don't, like, eject the filter, you know, and lose it, you know, like whatever you're doing. If, say, you're doing the slightly crappy practice of burning it in a campfire or what have you. But if you're gonna fire it into a trash can, you know, it's pretty easy to fire those filters in if you got used to the paper filters. But there you go. That just made a liter of coffee, which is slightly more than 2 of my cup. And right, you know, it's the right potency for me. I could make it stronger, I could make it weaker. And if I was like being super coffee snobbish, I could do this with a scale, you know, and get the actual ratio right. But I just use the little scoop from the Aeropress Go. Works for me for traveling. It's a convenient enough measure for me. Normally I'd use my spork, but that fork I found, I cleaned it and then I burned it off just to be sure. And I have no problems using it because I'm lazy, and my spork is all the way over there in my Lightheart gear tent. And that's a lot of effort to go get. But anyway, there you go. That's how you make coffee with an Aeropress and make more coffee than you need. And you can meter that and do like 1 heaping scoop and just brew right into the cup, and then just add hot water into it to fill the cup up, and you've essentially got a, you know, a sort of an Americano sort of thing. I drink my coffee black sometimes. Sometimes I like creamer, and I tend to like Splenda, but you know, to each their own. So I'll carry out some creamer and some Splenda once in a while. Not every time, but you know, to each their own on how they finish their coffee. But that's how I do it out in the woods, you know, non-fussed. I think the Aeropress is worth its weight every time, because the cup of coffee I just made is better than any instant coffee I've ever had, and I've had several, and I've had some of the nice ones like Alpine Start, and I mean they're good and all for instant, but it's still instant coffee. And don't I wish instant coffee was actually good, because it's a heck of a lot easier. But that ain't bad. But it all, you know, that all nests together. And then, you know, like if you wanted to do that with an alcohol stove, same process. You can actually fit a Supercat stove inside the bot with the Aeropress, with a windscreen, with the cup, and the Pocket Rocket Deluxe will actually nest with a little bit of finagling inside the plunger on the Aeropress too. But you really want to make sure your stuff's dry if you're gonna like store a you know, isobutane type canister stove in there. Otherwise your stove will corrode and get all bunged up after a while. But yeah, that's pretty much the size of it. And then so that's where I'm at with it, and I stand by that it's a good invention, and this fulfills every backpacker's sort of dreams to have good coffee on the trail that's better than all the instant coffees you can buy, but you pay a premium. The Aeropress Go is better for my purposes because I can make more coffee than I need for a cup. I can make coffee for a whole campsite if I really wanted to with that. What you do is you wind up making an entire cup. You know, you might do 2 or 3 of those presses into the actual cup, and then kind of store it in something different, you know, be it a water bottle or whatever. And then you can sit there and boil a ton of water and make a ton of coffee, because the concentrate doesn't actually have to be hot anymore if you're adding hot water to it. So I've made coffee for as many as like a dozen people inside of, you know, 20 minutes with an Aeropress, using, you know, using a couple people's stoves, you know, that wanted coffee, and you know, making a concentrate while I'm sitting up, you know, because I get up pretty early generally. So, you know, and everybody, you know, loves the morale of a hot cup of coffee in the morning, and a lot of people don't go through the hassles to carry it because it's heavy, you know. And you know, they drink the shitty Nescafe shit, or whatever what the hell is that one? And Maxwell House and Folgers sleeves. The Cafe Bustelo sleeves are the best of the cheap coffee sleeves that you can find at most dollar stores. But most people get that real crap, or they get a jar of instant coffee and use that. And then the Starbucks Vias, which I think the Starbucks Vias are pretty decent, but I think they're kind of expensive. I can make coffee for a solid week for you know, less than like $4 or $5, including fuel, coffee, you know, the sugar packets and stuff are, if you want those, are essentially free. If you know, stop in a town, you go to a gas station, make coffee, grab a couple extra, and, you know, for yourself. Because I don't think that's a, you know, a real big crime, because some people put like 16 or 17 sugars in a coffee, and I'll put like 1. You know, and then I'll buy like a little thing of creamer for like $1, pour it off into a Ziploc. So, you know, that's my trail coffee, and it's kind of a response to Paleo Hiker MD's thing, where he was saying he didn't understand, you know, the sort of market that the Aeropress Go was going for. That being said, the Aeropress Go does come with a cup and a whole kit, and it's kind of nice for like traveling. You know, it's all self-contained with a little filter holder if you like the paper filters, and, you know, it's kind of nice if you want to, like, you know, microwave some water in a hotel room, you know, and sit there and make the coffee, and, you know, make better coffee than the thing. or you can run the water through the coffee maker in a hotel room and then make coffee with it without actually, you know, making the coffee, or, you know, put the water in the pot and just turn the burner on the thing, you know, like say you were doing, you know, hotel style stuff without a stove. But that coffee right there is about as strong as, like, I mean, it's a little less strong than like a Starbucks, you know, like from the store coffee, but that's how I tend to make my own coffee. But I could have made it stronger. And it's not bitter in any way. It's not sour. Like sometimes, you know, with extractions, you get sour coffee, really bitter coffee. This actually makes a kind of a sweeter cup of coffee than a lot of other methods. You know, if I was going to do a pour over on the trail, I wouldn't bother with any of the stupid trail pour overs. I'd carry like a V60 or something like that. But V60s have filters and shit, and that's, you know, more headache than I want to deal with. The metal filter for this is great. You know, the Aeropress does a little bit better with, if you really wanted to make good coffee, you could buy some nice like third wave sort of coffee, get it a little coarser ground, use more coffee, which is, you know, because it does better with more coffee than a typical ratio that a lot of people use. More coffee, slightly coarser ground. But that being said, Cafe Bustelo is cheap. It's decent for cheap. You know, like let's keep our expectations kind of reasonable here. It is cheap coffee. It's, I think, $2 and less than $2.50 for a 10-ounce block of it, which fits inside of a quart Ziploc bag. Pretty nice. So like whenever you're in town at a dollar store, you just grab one, throw it into a Ziploc, and throw it in your pack. It's as easy as that. It's available everywhere, so you can count on it, because, you know, as much as I like fancy, you know, like expensive coffees, which I do get from time to time, especially out when I'm backpacking out west, you know, like the PCT is like the coffee trail. Like you go through some seriously wonderful places to buy coffee out there. It's a little bit more sparse on the east. I mean, you can find some nice roasters and stuff, but, you know, you're talking somewhere between $15 and $20 a pound for that coffee versus like, yeah, what, $4 a pound for Bustelo. You know, the economics of this makes sense, and in the woods you're a little less fussy. But that being said, you don't have to subject yourself to instant coffee if you're willing to carry the Aeropress Go. And the current setup with my titanium cup weighs less than the Aeropress Go kit. When you look at the weight on the Aeropress Go, that's for the entire thing, including that silly silicone cover, which that thing weighs ounces. It's crazy. But I think the Aeropress Go as just a unit by itself is probably less than half a pound, which, you know, a half a pound is half a pound. Like, you make your luxury decisions how you want for backpacking. It's not the lightest solution, but it's one of the better ones. There's, you know, a handful of other options. I mean, cowboy coffee works too if you're so inclined. You know, you heat up some water, you know, kind of steep some coffee in it, sprinkle a little cold water on it, and the grounds drop to the bottom, and then you pour off and leave the ground sludge in the bottom. But that just makes a mess out of my pot, and it pisses me off. This, I just fire the grounds out of the Aeropress, give it a quick rinse on the plunger surface. You know, like when I have time and I'm feeling squirrely, I'll take it apart and, you know, really give it a good douching. You know, that's, you know, a couple times a week. But, you know, the simple cleanup is just fire it out, rinse the seal off, and, you know, rinse the filter off, and you're good to go. You know, usually I can accomplish all that right after I make the coffee, and then I kind of just take my water bottle and spray it off, you know, and spray my spork off that I stirred the coffee with you know, a sport cap smart water bottle. So there you go. That being said, you know, as a response to Paleo Hiker MD, you know, I love his channel. Like, he actually posts some really cool stuff about stoves. I give him, you know, all the props in the world for actually making a YouTube channel that I enjoy watching. It's not all just pandering to, like, through hikers. It's cool stuff about stoves and technical know-how, building alcohol stoves. Like it's a fun channel, and I definitely catch as many of his videos as I can when I'm sitting around with Wi-Fi or a decent service and I'm bored, because that's what YouTube is. It's the time suck when you're bored, and his channel is one that I actually like spending that time suck on. So nods to Ernie and Paleo Hiker MD channel. Like it is totally worth investing a little bit of time into that channel. My channel probably won't get anywhere near the views because I'm not trying that game. I'm just filming this video for him. I'm a dirtbag, and I just kind of make do with what I got and try to make things work. And this is my solutions to the problem that everybody has with an Aeropress, because they're like, oh, it doesn't make enough coffee. It definitely can, and there's various ways to get there. If you really want to look into the Aeropress, there's some crazy things that people do with it. There's a whole championship, where people compete to make the best coffee with an Aeropress. It's crazy for a piece of plastic. From an inventor that Alan Adler, who invented the Aerobi flying disc. You remember that frisbee with the hole in the middle that everybody was like throwing around back in the probably the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, it was the ultimate frisbee like toy from my childhood. And he wanted a way to make a great cup of coffee for one person, and ultimately it's useful for more. And if you really wanted to lighten this up, the plunger doesn't need to have all that plastic. You could take a drill to it, and remove probably about half the plunger and still get the same. It's all about the seal and less about the actual plunger. So as long as it's got the structural integrity to push through, which isn't all that much force, you could sit there and cut giant slits out of it, and make the Aeropress even lighter. You could even saw the Aeropress down if you are only going to make one cup of coffee at a time. You could make the thing way shorter. Little DIY hacks. I don't bother because I like the ability to make a liter of coffee at once, so I make coffee one time because I like to have a couple cups of coffee in the morning. And I like the ability to make coffee for, say I'm camping with somebody and they want a cup of coffee too in the morning. It's a nice gesture. But anyway, hope this helps somebody. Sorry for rambling. Sprocket out.